So there would be the executive producer, who is Greg Daniels, or a co-executive producer, all the fancy names. They kind of decide on the vision and the arcs, the overriding feelings of the whole season, and then your job is more micro. Like, you sit there and you pitch jokes to fix other people's scripts. That's your you're supposed to be like a little worker bee.
You have a lot of good joke people, but you need some story people, or you have people who can sit around and discuss character all day.
We all pitch all the ideas out, and we work really hard sort of making an outline, and then one writer goes off and writes the original draft, and then once you write it, it becomes the property of the staff again, and we all rewrite it, but the person who's sort of the point person is on it from day one, and is on the set and is editing and stuff.
It's the job of the showrunner to try and make sure that everyone feels safe in the writer's room. It's a balance, because if they feel too safe, then they just talk and talk and talk, and no work gets done. Putting a writing staff together is what I imagine putting maybe a baseball team together would be, in that there's different positions and you're trying to get a balance, and as you're hiring, you have a lot of good joke people, but you need some story people, or you have people who can sit around and discuss character all day, but you need somebody who understands dialogue and speaks the way people speak nowadays.
So at The Office, we had 6 writers the first season and then 8 the second season. And so for a sitcom writer's room, you sit around a room, and the upper level writers are kind of the only ones for whom it's cool to, like, okay, I want to do an episode about this. Like, that would be a little presumptuous if you were a staff writer. So kind of the well-paid people get to come up with the big ideas.
Do they have a different title?
Yes, so there would be the executive producer, who is Greg Daniels, or a co-executive producer, all the fancy names. And then when you're just like a schlub like me, you're a staff writer. And your job is to they kind of decide on the vision and the arcs, the overriding feelings of the whole season. And then your job is more micro. Like, you'll write a script, and then when they're rewriting a script, which all happens around a big conference room, you sit there and you pitch jokes to fix other people's scripts. That's you're supposed to be like a little worker bee.
It's the job of the showrunner to try and make sure that everyone feels safe in the writer's room. It's a balance, because if they feel too safe, then they just talk and talk and talk, and no work gets done. And some rooms that I've been in, for example, The Simpsons, is a very quiet room, and there's a very high standard for what you have to say, and that's the way they liked it. And I remember when I was working there, they hired a pretty young writer who just loved to talk, and drove everybody crazy, because in that little silence where they were all, sifting through the possibilities and trying to think of the funniest line, he would just fill it up with attention-needing stuff, and so they got rid of him pretty quick.
The way that we would start a season, we'd start with what we would call a blue sky period, which was my favorite part of every year. For 2, 3, 4 weeks sometimes, if we had a long time. Every single day in the writer's room was just, what if? There's no penalty, there's no maybe we can't, there's no but this one conflicts with that one. What if Dwight goes to the moon? What if Jim and Pam get divorced? Just every idea is valid.
So when it says, if your name is on the script for the writer, what did you do on that script?
So when you write an episode of a show like The Office, we'll have all sat together in a room and broken the story. So breaking the story means we just talk through every single beat. Okay, Michael Scott does this, then Dwight does this, there's an A story and a B story, Pam and Jim are on the B story, and we just take these colored cards, and the Michael story will be a yellow card, and the B story will be a pink card, and then we just put it up on a board. And then once that's done...
And is there any dialogue written for that, or is it literally just outline?
It's plot with little interjections of comedy bits, like where you pitch some dialogue, which if it kills in the room and does really well, and is there's a writer's assistant who's taking notes, transcribing everything that's said. And so that's the document you have. So if you remember that someone who is important in the room pitched something that made people laugh, you put it in the script.
For me, it takes me a long time to thoroughly understand what I'm adapting. And I kind of look at it like a clock, and you take the top off and you get in there and you figure out all the gears and try and really understand why everything has been put in the clock by the person who first made it. And then you can recreate it, but then there's a second step, which is to change it for the country that you're in. And for me, I didn't change it the first season. I didn't change it till the second season. I'll usually read hundreds of spec scripts and then get about 40 that I want to meet the writers of. And then when you're meeting them, you're pretty much just looking for a bottle of wine that's gone bad, you know? It's like most people are pretty nice and funny, but some people are just really weird in person, and you realize, like, I don't want to hang out with them intensely for the next 10 months or something. I think I was in a lot of denial during the finale because it was a very joyful experience. I was very happy to have the different cast members return, like Mindy and BJ and Steve.
I can't believe you came. That's what she said.
It was such a kind of a classic thing to set up a situation where he could say that, and the characters were acting like it was the most profound, you know, emotional interaction that he could say when it was, you know, it was just a "that's what she said" joke. It seemed like it was very in character. Well, even from the pilot, we had the actors come up with their own stuff a lot of times.
Oh, is that right?
That's, I think, probably the area that has the most, you know, original generation of stuff from the actors. And if they are feeling less than inspired, there is a complete script to you know, everybody could do it. And then oftentimes some of them enjoy, you know, making stuff up around the edges.
Those, we call them talking heads, and those are the best things to shoot because they're really easy, because it's a camera on a tripod and an actor sitting 2 feet away. And we do what's written in the script, and then they say, let me try this, and they try something, and we make up jokes on the set, and I don't think Rainn has ever not given, for example, an alternate version of a talking head, at least once. It's really, but they're easy to shoot. You can shoot 100 of them in 10 minutes, you know, and so they get to like goof around and have fun.
I remember when we were shooting the pilot, and Greg called me up at home one night before work, and I thought he was going to fire me. I really did, because executive producers don't usually like call the actors at home like the night before unless it's bad. But he called me up and he said, "So Jenna, tomorrow we're going to do some of your talking heads. And I was just thinking maybe you could talk a little bit about Roy, maybe where you think you guys started your relationship. I don't want to give you any ideas. I just want to see what you can come in with. We'll ask you about that relationship and you can just talk about it." And that's kind of when I knew that I was on a really special show that valued actors' input, and we were brought into the creative process right from the beginning, and we still do that.
Am I correct in saying that one writer leads up an episode and then sort of other writers help with the editing? Is that typical of a television show creating a comedy, or is that atypical?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, one of the writers is sort of, we all pitch all the ideas out, and we work really hard sort of making an outline, and then one writer goes off and writes the original draft, and then once you write it, it becomes the property of the staff again, and we all rewrite it, but the person who's sort of the point person is on it from day one and is on the set and is in editing and stuff. And then, you know, you edit it and you get it exactly the way that you think is best. And then Greg comes down and points out why what you did was stupid and terrible. And then he fixes it and makes it good.